What is going on, everybody? It is your boy Nothing But Skills, and today we're going to be talking about Division 2 and everything you guys really want to know about crafting and recalibration. Now, the Division 2 had a stream on Twitch, I want to say about a week ago, and I was randomly watching their past broadcast, and I came across this, and I think a lot of people didn't even watch this stream, or they might not have known about it because I don't think it was on YouTube. I think it was only on Twitch, so if you don't watch twitch.tv, the Division game, you might have missed it. In this stream, they break down recalibration and crafting, and it was really interesting everything they had to say about it. So what I did is, it was about 1 hour, I cut it down and gave you what you really needed to know about. So what we'll do is we'll watch this, and then I'll talk to you guys a little bit at the end of the stream.
What we're going for is we want it to be viable, to have an orange build in endgame, so a brand-based build rather than a gear set, because the gear sets aren't necessarily better, but they're doing something else, they're different.
Okay.
So once you hit endgame, you're going to have these two avenues that you can play around with the normal gear that's in orange or in high end, or with the gear sets that are more specialized and caters more to a specific playstyle. Brand set bonuses, those are specific to the brand. Okay. So you can't take a plus crit chance from one brand and put on something else if it's one of the unlocked stats. However, when you're recalibrating, then you can move other things around freely. So if you have a set of gloves from Douglas and Harding and it has a bonus that rolled on it, you can move that bonus over, but you can't touch the brand. Exactly, not the brand specific stuff. All right, cool. So what we see here is the landing page of the crafting station, and this is kind of how it will look like when you unlock it for the first time. But if we look at the left-hand side, we have the stats panel of the crafting bench. There's the number of blueprints we have, which is 47 in this case.
So there's 180 blueprints?
Currently, yeah.
Ooh.
It's a lot of blueprints. And then we see that the crafting bench is specialized, so it's a blue quality at the moment. And the crafting level is 2, and that is also the same level as our agent is. And when we level up, this also levels up with us. So if we would go out and complete the mission, come back at level 3, we would be crafting at level 3.
But our crafting bench, its ceiling is specialized quality? Is that... Because you can upgrade the bench as well, right?
Yes, exactly. So we can upgrade it. So the next upgrade will take it to purple, and then the next one will take it to orange. And then beyond that, we can upgrade it through the world tiers. So we have our categories: the gear, the weapons, the mods, and misc. And then we have this new thing, which is a crafting project.
Oh, I like that.
This is really cool. This is a feature I'm super happy we could add. And what this does is basically, if we select this, we can then select one of our blueprints and say, okay, I'm hunting to craft this one. And it will create a project for us that we have. When we access the world map, we can see an overview of our projects, and it will tell us, you need these materials, and you have enough materials to craft this item 2 times maybe. And then that will increase as you find them.
Nice. Actually, that's a good question. Are the blueprints account-wide?
So they're not. They're per character. That's also something that we're looking at, because we know that especially in endgame, account-wide blueprints is a nice quality of life things. Okay. So that's something that's, it's being worked on, but currently you get them on the character, and that's where you have them. Have here is our guns, and on our left-hand side we see the different categories, and we can navigate between them like so. And here we have the assault rifles. We have 3 blueprints here. Normally, we would get these blueprints from a variety of sources, where we would either get them from side missions, or by completing certain projects, or maybe buying them from a vendor and things like that. Okay. So for this early in the game, this is a lot of blueprints. This is something that kind of grows with you.
So on that, what you're just saying now is these are all from activities, and they have a dedicated source. Are there any that are just in the loot pool, and you may or may not get from drops?
So that's definitely something that we considered, but for the campaign, we actually said that, okay, so we could do that, and it would be cool to find a random knee pad blueprint from just shooting an enemy. However, we wanted to, since they're unlocks, these blueprints, so you get the ones and you have them and they grow with you, we wanted to have, give you a better experience of, okay, so when you're at level, say 7, we want it to be possible for you to have acquired a bunch of gear blueprints reliably Because if you're looking for that mask to replace and you can't find it from loot, we want you to go craft it so you get something good, so you can progress until you find a better item to replace that with from the normal loot pool.
That reliability really makes sense for the campaign. That's really cool.
Crafting, it's a really cool system, but if you just think, okay, so what is crafting doing in this game? It's a lot of helping the player to catch up. So it's a support system where you can go like, oh, I'm actually falling behind on a slot, or I'm not finding an assault rifle, but I want to play with an assault rifle. Then you can go and craft that thing to get it a little bit on demand to help you along. So that's why we wanted to have a little bit more control over what's the possibility of you actually getting blueprints that are useful in the campaign. If we look at this FAMAS here, we see on the right-hand side the stats panel, and you can see that it says replica after it. Any crafted item will have a replica, or in some cases improvised, keyword.
Okay.
That means that this looks and behaves and feels like a normal FAMAS. However, you can always know when what has come from crafting and stuff like that. And I think that's really neat when you're looking through your inventory and you can get reminded of, oh right, I can craft this item, or this is how I got it. We can look at the different stats here. We'll see we get a random bonus, we get a random talent, we see the mod slots. Those aren't random, so those are just how they preview, like, okay, this is what you're gonna get, which is cool, because if you have a lot of 556 muscle mods that you like, then you would like to find a weapon that actually has that. And yeah, it's not random, so much as well show you.
Cool.
And you can see, the damage range it will roll in between, and the magazine and RPM accuracy and all that jazz.
Oh, and I also see that you can make it a project as well from there.
Exactly. So if we press this button here, then we made it into a project, and I think you can see that it's marked as the current crafting project. And if we go out here, we have it in the top. And if we go to the world map, we can see it also outside of the bench, and that's the main utilities. When you roam the world, you can get reminded, oh, what is it that I'm looking at again? And you can
like,
look at it.
What do I not have? What do I need?
Exactly. And then you see the materials requirements. We have a steel, carbon fiber, and receiver components, which are green, blue, and gray materials. And these materials are new for the Division 2. We moved away from how we do materials like we did in the first game, where we had one material that corresponded, or two materials corresponded with gear and or weapons, and then the different mods to those. And yeah, since you can't deconstruct weapon mods anymore, that wouldn't work. But also we wanted to ground it a little bit more, and disconnect it a little bit from that, like, oh, I need to just hunt gear to deconstruct it to get these materials. And if we bring up the materials overlay here, so we can see that the receiver components and protective fabric, these are our base materials, and those still come from deconstructing weapons or gear, and that's kind of what you get from it. And you can also unlock a perk, so if you deconstruct something, you have a chance to get a green material from them as well. But then if we look at our standard and specialized materials here, we can see steel here is valued by the True Sons. So if you go and fight the True Sons faction, then they will drop these materials for you.
Oh, it actually says it in the in the description.
Behind the weird scan lines that only we can see.
Yeah.
And then there's some description, like a factual description of, like, oh, what is steel? How does it work? How is it used in weapons? And like, despite the icon here, like the icon looks like a I-beam to help communicate, like, oh, this is steel. But yeah, if you would look at this from a role-playing or fantasy perspective, it's like, yeah, well, you use steel to build a lot of guns in a lot of cases, small or large components depending on the gun and what it needs to do and why, etc. And when you scavenge these things in the world, it's not that you're tearing down buildings. Like, you can't go to a construction site and just like take all the
copper.
yeah, exactly. No, it's rather that you find components in the world made out of steel that you can then like recycle and use into crafting. So yeah, so steel is used for firearms, and then if we look at ceramics, that's used for gear. And the outcasts have this material, so they drop it, have a drop chance. So you can, and for all of these, you can find them in the world when you scavenge, or you can go fight the factions, and they have a small drop chance for it. So if you want to farm for, say, polycarbonate, which can be used in both gear and weapons, Hyenas tend to drop these, so you can say that, okay, then I'm going to go and play main missions with hyenas in them. And as you do that, you will start finding materials from drops, and then you can combine this with also like, oh, I want to farm for a new weapon, and then you can go, play these types of activities to find both things at once. So yeah, and then we have a little bit rarer, the specialized materials. And here we also have, they're also hoarded by a faction, and they're used for one for weapon, one for gear, and one for both. And then we go into superior materials, which will have the printer filament. And this you get from deconstructing mods for gear and for skills. And it's also mainly used to create those things as well. But it's also used a little bit in some other special cases. And then when we go into endgame, you can see I have 3 high-end materials here. And
That's cool.
we'll talk about those in a minute. So we're ready to craft. We see the little button flashing. So I'm holding X here on an Xbox controller. And we're crafting it. And then, oh no, I don't want to do that. I'm just kidding. I want to do that. Boom. Yeah,
Cool.
Here we go. And we get a reveal.
I love the screen.
And you see the thing. We see all the rolls. So the right-hand side now, this is fixed. So.
That is a sick talent for this gun.
Oh, yeah. That's neat. That's one of my favorite. I'm very much a print spray player, so this is a really good talent for me. Yeah, and you see everything. From here, you can either equip it. We can compare it to what we have, which is really handy.
Oh, it compares the damage drop-off too.
Yeah. So this is just as comparing in the inventory. And we can mark it as favorite. We can mark it as junk. We can deconstruct it here if we're not if we don't like this result, or we can just go back. So yeah, let's go back. Cool. And then we start here again, and oh, maybe I want to do a shotgun, and I can do that next, etc., etc.
All right.
And when we look at gear, it looks the same. So in the campaign, you'll start to find the improvised blueprints, and these don't have a brand. Because you're kind of making them themselves, and you don't want to make copyright infringement and all that jazz. So for the campaign, you have the unbranded things you can craft, and that means that when you find stuff from loot, that will generally be a little bit better because they have a brand, and the brand bonuses are pretty neat. However, crafting grows a little bit faster than loot, so you can craft blue items a little bit before you start seeing them frequently in drops.
So you can get that power spike before you would.
Yeah, and then same when you go up onto purple. Like you'll see a couple of purple items dropping, but you can get it reliably from crafting a little bit before you get it reliably from loot. And the same with high end. But
so
then,
don't sleep on crafting if you.
Yeah,
that's cool.
But the drawback here is then you lose out on the brand bonuses, and that also makes it so when you find an item in the world, that can be better, and you can replace it. So you're getting the best of 2 worlds. You both craft good stuff and you find good stuff and equip it, and that's fun because it's a loot game, right?
But you don't have brand bonuses on weapons, so there's really no drawback to hitting those power spikes earlier with weapons.
So the campaign blueprints for weapons, you get the more like standard ones. So now we had given ourselves a bunch of them with debug commands, but the ones you find, they're a little bit more basic. Some of them have fewer mod slots and stuff like that, and then you start to find the higher tiers of weapons later. They're not necessarily like stronger or have more bonuses or anything, but like they're different flavors, right?
But so you won't craft brands through 1 to 30?
No, you will not.
Okay.
Not generally, because you have the improvised line of gear that you're using instead.
Okay.
And on the left-hand side, we can just where the cursor is actually, we can see that the next upgrade is going to be purple, and it will cost us a bunch of resources.
Okay.
I think that's cool, so we can do that. So now we're upgrading the bench, and as simple as that. Now, if we go and look at our mask, this is purple.
Cool.
And we see it has 2 bonuses now instead of 1. It also costs a little bit more, but since we're late in the game, we're also acquiring things faster. So if we look at the chest piece here, we see that we get one of those mod slots as well.
Cool.
So I think we can craft one of these just to see how it would look. Then we see it equipped. This is how it will look. We got a talent, 2 stats, a bunch of armor. And then here we get a defensive protocol mod slots, meaning that in the campaign, any generic protocol mod will fit here. And in endgame, we would need a defensive one to really fill that up. Yeah, but let's go into the endgame crafting.
Nice.
So I'm gonna upgrade this to orange real quick here.
Okay. So we're level 30-ish.
Yeah, 29,
30.
30. And then what's gonna happen now is that we'll be starting to see brand blueprints.
Oh,
So if you
makes sense
see
now.
here, we have 2 categories where the next one is branded. So what we have here is one Badgertough backpack. This is a set backpack. And then we have one from Petro Defense Group.
Look at all those bonuses and talents.
Yeah.
Damn.
This is endgame right here. So if we look at this one, we see in the bottom here the brand set. So it's easy for us to see, okay, well, I forgot what the Badger gear does, so I can go here and, all right, yeah, it's damage to elite. Cool, that's really nice. If we look at it, it looks like the other gear item, right? It has the name on the top. It's also a replica item now, meaning that we can track it, knowing that, oh, we crafted this thing. And we have some cost, we have an armor range, the bonuses, mod slots, and dice. We would see a talent here if we would have one. Maybe this one can have 2 talents. This one can not have any talent, but it would have more power in the stats instead.
That is a good question.
Yeah.
How do you get branded blueprints?
Yeah, and these...
Are they a little bit different, or are they the same?
Yeah, so they work the same as the unbranded blueprints, but how you get them is a little bit more bespoke. So some of them will go on the endgame vendors, so you can actually buy them.
Cool.
Some of them come from doing certain activities. So if you have a weekly project to do, maybe you get a blueprint from there and stuff like that. And you can also like harass control points to make them give you blueprints. But these will take a bit longer to get. Like you won't just be getting them fast like you do with the ones in the campaign, because now we're going into like making builds and maybe a little bit of min-maxing, etc. So these will be rarer and a little bit harder to find. Then we get into the high-end materials. They are brand materials, and we can have a look at them here. So if we look at the Badger one, so this is the Badgertough textile fur. And this crafting material is specifically used for making Badgertough items. And it's also acquired by breaking down Badgertough gear. So when you deconstruct a high quality piece from this brand, you have a chance of getting this material coming out of it, basically.
Is there any drop chance for the branded materials?
So you won't get it from drops when killing enemies.
Okay.
However, there are some activities that will reward random brand materials, because it can be like if you want like Badger gear, and then to get the material, we require you to deconstruct same branded gear to get that. Like, it doesn't really work out, right? Yeah. So if you haven't like hoarded up a bunch from before, you can do certain activities to get a random drop of them.
Okay, so projects and
projects.
Things? Okay. Bounties? I don't know.
Anyway. I think so. Yeah, we recently went through it and added it to a couple of more places, so it's a little bit.
But it'll be in-game activities, and
it will be in-game for sure. If we look at skill mods here, these are actually generated randomly. So if I would craft this unknown pulse mod here, we spend a bunch of materials, including the printer filament, the purple one. Spin the wheel. And then we get a mod for this skill, but we have less control over exactly where it fits.
We want to get onto recalibration before we have to send you back out into the world. So recal, what were your main points you wanted to get across in this new system? Because in the Division 1 there was recalibration and optimization and crafting and that whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
What did you want to achieve with recal?
All right, so with recal, one thing that we wanted to approach was that it was very random. And you went in and just re-rolled until you got what you got. And having that type of like output randomness, as it's called, is not necessarily fun, because you press the button, it randomizes, you see the results, you select one if you want to redo it again. So, but it still has to be a random system, because if we would make a system that would just be, oh, you can go and just select a stat, and oh, this is what I want it to be maxed out, then like...
It's not a game anymore.
No, you undercut the whole game, and that's not really what this is about. So we took an approach with what's called input randomness instead, where we make sure that you, in a random way, you find what you need. And then you can use that to predictably get what you want.
Yeah, I think what's cool about this is that it actually gives value to every drop now. So let's say I'm out in the world and I get, I'm mostly kitted out in high ends.
Yeah.
Or guess it, and then I find a a purple piece of gear,
Yeah.
but it has a 6 stat on it.
Yeah.
And I wish that I could put it on my
Exactly.
high end or whatever.
Yeah.
I can now do that.
Yeah, you can use that to transfer it. So we can explain the mechanic real quick, just to everyone who hasn't followed when we talked about this on the live stream for the cross beta. But basically, when you recalibrate, when you find an item in the world and you find a stat or talent on it that you like, you can transfer it to an item that you'd rather equip.
So what happens to that? What we designated as the trash item, does it receive the bonus from the one that you're recalling to? Does it swap, or does it cannibalize that?
No, we break it down. So imagine that you're looking at a mask and like, oh, this one component is really good. I want it in my other mask. Then you need to like break it open and pry it out before you can like
So
take it out, and it destroys that item. Yeah.
Okay. So just before people are like, I have 2 great items. If only I could switch these 2 stats.
No.
And then have these 2 items. That's not going to happen.
No, don't do that.
It'll
or
be
you
like,
can't
oh,
do
it's
that.
gone.
Don't expect that.
All right, okay, cool.
Exactly. So, but yeah, just like you said, it makes it so that anything that drops in the world is interesting. Because even if it's a lower quality, lower power, wrong brand, anything, it can have that one component that you actually want or need. And then you can use that as a material, essentially, for recalibration. If you want to transfer something to knee pads, you need to take something from another set of knee pads.
Okay, so you can't go from like mask to knee pads.
No, because that would be weird. But imagine that you have a protective armor and you want to change out the plating, the bulletproof plating.
Yeah.
And then you take your glove and just drop that in there and throw out the armor piece. Like it doesn't really work. So no, it has to be the same type of garment, the same type of item.
Yeah.
And same with guns as well. Like if you have a pistol and try to jam a light machine gun mechanism into it, that just doesn't work. So it doesn't make sense at all. And then there's some restrictions of what you can do, because like we can't have you completely breaking the balance of the item either. So if you look at the weapons, for instance, which have the 3 different types of talents, you can only move it to the same slot. So if you want to move the advanced talent from your pistol to your other pistol, it needs to overwrite that advanced talent. So you can't be stacking these because they need to be of the same category. Yeah. So it's more about changing what you have like on the whole level, rather than making it stupidly overpowered by making combinations that really shouldn't exist in the game.
Okay.
And on gear, we have the offense, defense, utility category that we use to move over. So it's defense to defense. So what would work is that, okay, you're not building for crit chance, and you find a roll of weapon damage. Then those are offense stats. Then you can replace your crit chance with your weapon damage, because you have a more like on-hit type of build. You can recalibrate one thing, and then you can recalibrate that how many times you want. Like, there's no limit. Yeah, but you can't recalibrate everything. It's
same with talents, right?
Yes, exactly. But if you swap out a talent and you feel like, oh, this wasn't really for me, or maybe like further down the line you want to redefine your playstyle a bit, you can swap the talent out again without like losing the whole item, because that's a bit unfair if it's your favorite pistol. Then.
So I really like how they kept the recalibration from Division 1 to Division 2, but they evolved how you craft, because you guys know nobody really crafted besides if you're trying to get that magazine, but most of the time you just buy it from a vendor or those gear sets. You never really crafted a gear set, right? But in Division 2, you can actually craft brand sets, and as you keep leveling up your crafting table, you can craft better items, and that's what I really liked about this. Let me know what you guys think about crafting in the Division 2, recalibration in Division 2 in the comment section. If you guys enjoyed this video, found it useful, hit thumbs up, and as always, if you don't see me in conflict, if you don't see me in the dark zone, it's only a matter of time. Nothing but skills out.